Okay, so this is a video that I'm preparing for my economics classes, um, or international business classes about in purchasing power parity. And what is that? I mean, what does that mean? Well, really it comes down to, why would I buy one currency over another? For instance, why would I want to put my money in the euro versus the US dollar? Well, the first question might be interest rates, right? Interest rates might be, on an inflation adjusted basis, more attractive in one domain than another. For instance, the US is now paying close to 5% in treasuries, and according to the consumer price index, if inflation is running at 3%, you're making a 2% rate of return, right? Think about it. Prices have gone up 3%, you making 5, you're making 2%. You can't just go with raw data. You got to go with inflation-adjusted data. And in the euro, if they're making 5%, but inflation is running at 4%, you're getting less of a good deal. So that would be one reason. Other reasons might be macroeconomic factors, like you feel long-term growth in one zone versus another. You'd rather own the stocks or the assets in one place or the other. And if you want to own assets or stocks in the European market, well, then you got to get into euros. If you want to do it in the US, you got to get into dollars. Another reason might be political stability. You might feel that one area has better political and economic stability than the other. Economic stability coming from the central bank controlling the value of the dollar or the euro, or political stability, where right now we're witnessing the problems in the Ukraine, even in the Middle East, which affects Europe. And you may not want to be there right now. You may want to be in the US, where political stability might be more secure, right? Just a kind of a call based on your long-term or short-term outlook. If you're an investor, a pension fund, a bank, a sovereign wealth fund. So given those things, what else do we want to look at? Well, one of the big factors would be purchasing power parity, which they've used the Big Mac index and some of these other things to try to compare what something buys with a currency. Because when you think about a currency, it's either a unit of account, which means you can measure things with that. For instance, my cable bill might be 1/5 my car bill, right? Or it's a store of value, which allows me to see how much money I've saved or how much I've accumulated. Or the medium of exchange, and that's what we're talking about. When I exchange my currency for something, how much goods does it actually buy, right? For instance, a dollar is just a piece of paper with the presidents on it, right? God bless them. Or the euro has the same issue. But I'm buying goods. And if I'm buying goods, how do I compare these goods? For instance, if I go to a baseball game in Japan, and I saw a video recently, like they eat all kinds of different stuff, a different culture, right? They eat fish or some bubble shakes or things you wouldn't see normally in a U.S. game. If you go to a U.S. baseball game, you're seeing hot dogs, hamburgers. So even though I have to transfer yen for something, or dollars for something, the game, what I have at the game, the food I get at the game, it's going to be different things. So sometimes I feel that the best way is to find things that are fungible. So for instance, the Big Mac index has worked for a while because they just price what it costs to buy a Big Mac. We've heard these stories like in Vietnam. If you go travel to Vietnam, you can get a luxury hotel room for $100 a night. Things have different purchasing power. I like to look at the Four Seasons because this is a luxury hotel brand. It's well known. It has amenities that are pretty much the same anywhere you go because that's what they're selling. Top amenities, top service, good bedding, beautiful rooms. Now, if you stay at the Four Seasons in New York, you're going to pay about $2,000 a night, which is a lot of money, no question about it, for a regular room. And if you buy a room in Montreal, for instance, it's more like $500-$600 a night. That's a big difference. Now, one could argue New York is different than Montreal. New York is obviously one of the biggest, if not the biggest city in the world. It has a lot of things to offer in terms of doing business there, if you're doing business, or the theater, or museums, any of the stuff that makes New York special, right? But then again, Montreal's not a horrible place. It's a beautiful city. It's got that Parisian feel. It's got the same good food. It has the arts. It has beautiful churches and museums. So if I adjust for that, and none of this is ever easy. Even a Big Mac is not easy, not on its face. If I adjust for all of that, because some places they may not even want the Big Mac, right? But if I adjust for all of that, is the Four Seasons room in New York worth 3 times what I'm going to pay in Montreal? And that's purchasing power parity. For that same experience, if I don't step out of the hotel and just stay there for 3 days and do business, is it the same? With the same people. And that's when you start to talk about purchasing power parity. So I want you to think about that. That's why I'm introducing this as a concept. When we're dealing with currencies, or we're saying, "Oh, that's a good deal," or "I should go and travel here because I do better with my dollar," and I'm obviously translating it to another currency. Are you getting the same experience in every place? And if you could say yes to that, then you've answered the inflation question, you can answer the macro question, you can answer the political and monetary stability questions, and you can answer what my dollar is actually buying, or what my currency is actually buying. So why don't we start that with food for thought, and I'll follow up with some other videos.